Hello everyone. I got a little interesting video for all of you. Probably get judged for it, but I could give two shits. So here in Ecuador, we have vampire bats. They will often attack livestock. Obviously they come at night and they seem to have some sort of anesthetic in their saliva to where they're able to inject or topically anesthetize the animal with whatever chemical it might be. And then the animal cannot feel them bite into the animal and commence to drink their blood. They will also sometimes attack people. I knew this guy that was probably pushing 400 pounds, and he was sleeping in a house with open windows, and he would just wake up in the morning with these weird bites that he couldn't explain. And another thing, not only do these bats anesthetize, I don't know if all of them do, you to a point where you're not able to feel them biting you, but they also have some sort of anticoagulant in their saliva that allows for the blood to flow freely. And even after they fly away, your wound keeps bleeding a little bit, and it takes a while for it to for the blood to coagulate and the wounds to seal. But anyway, we've had this happen to some of our livestock in the past. The problem is already solved. We figured it out. But it's something that's, I suppose, piqued my interest in hematophagy, I guess is what it's called. A blood diet, basically, right? What's interesting about the vampire bats that we have here is the fact that they also seem to feed on fruit. I found that very interesting because from all the science that I've read, and maybe biologists have discovered this and changed their mind about it, but from all the science that I've read, these bats are exclusively hematophagous. So they only drink blood. That's their only source of food. However, I myself witnessed a vampire bat, murciélago, or macho, as they call it here. Quechua word, macho. You know, I myself witnessed it eating passion fruit, maracuya. So, it's a little bit off topic, but you know, it seems to me that biologists, zoologists, not everything they say is necessarily true, and they're constantly changing their mind. Hopefully they're looking, they're on the constant search for truth. But for example, you know, they tell us that, it's a bit of a tangent, so forgive me. They tell us that, you know, these bats are carnivorous, if you will, or more specifically, their only source of food is blood, when in reality, and I've observed this myself, they also seem to eat fruit. You know, they tell us that ruminant animals such as cows, goats, that they are herbivores, when my neighbor's cows also eats rats, right? I saw a video of a goat eating a chicken, right? So, just something to think about. But as far as drinking blood goes, it's a behavior that's been demonized, literally demonized in our society. And it makes sense because, shit, you don't want people fiending for each other's blood, right? Going around drinking blood. But if we are going to be carnivorous, at least most of us, why is drinking blood a problem, right? It's part of the animal. We do eat some amount of blood, right? It's in our meat. It's if you eat liver, it's in the liver. There's always going to be some blood in the meat that we eat. But modern food practices and the way we're taught to slaughter and eat our animals, for some odd reason, has moved us away from drinking the blood, right? And we have these movies where vampires are, demon-like and evil, and they look all sickly and shit. It's something that's seen as gross, disgusting, and just downright evil, right? It's also associated with the occult, right? There's these theories, maybe some evidence that some people in the occult engage in blood sacrifice and the consumption of blood, right? I personally think that it does happen. That's just my opinion. This idea of vampires, after all, came from somewhere, right? But anyway, drinking the blood of people, I mean, it's not a practice I would want to encourage, right? It's not something that I would want to do unless I was absolutely forced to. It doesn't seem healthy. There's probably a very high risk of contracting a disease, and it's just unethical, right? In most instances anyway. But there are some people that, according at least to medical science, have an obsession with drinking blood. And maybe they do. Maybe some of them do. Maybe we've decided to categorize it as a mental illness, if you will, because, well, it's best to demonize and not encourage that sort of behavior in people, right? Maybe it helps our society function as a society that as we know it today, right? I don't know. But there's definitely something to it, because again, people in the occult seem to do this for some reason, right? There are primitive tribes who will go on a hunt, kill the animal, and one of the first things they'll do is consume the blood of the animal, right? There are vampire facials, right? We do blood transfusions. We recognize the value of blood, nutritional value of blood, right? It's used as, well, a nutrient, whether you're getting a vampire facial, again, using the vitality of the blood to look younger, or you're getting a blood transfusion because you're literally getting life pumped into you because, you might, because of a medical issue or, an accident or something. On some level, I think we all recognize the value of blood. Right? When you start bleeding, for example, your urge is to, a lot of the times, and maybe that's been culturally, as you grow older, you've been made not to do that. But when you're a little kid especially, one of the first things that comes to your mind, or you just do it automatically, what do you do when you cut yourself? You start sucking on your finger, right? If that's where you cut yourself. It's, on some level, you recognize that this life force is leaving your body and you want to put it right back in. You don't want to lose precious blood because we all value it innately, subconsciously. So a little bit out of curiosity and for nutritional reasons, I started drinking blood recently. We just slaughtered an animal, a goat, a few minutes ago, and I had maybe a cup of the still warm blood. I wouldn't call it tasty, but it's not gross either. It's very salty, kind of has a bit of like liver taste. I mean, it tastes exactly how when you cut yourself and you start sucking on your finger, right? It tastes like iron, yeah, which is one of the nutrients that's in it, actually. This is maybe the third or fourth time I tried it, and every time I do it, I get high. Now, not high where my motor skills suffer or I'm somehow impaired in one way or another, or that I start seeing things that aren't there. Not in that sense. In the sense that the world literally seems brighter. Everything just looks brighter. It feels like my vision gets a little bit better. It's hard to describe. There's a certain kind of clarity that happens right away. I perk up. I want to start singing all of a sudden for no apparent reason, right? I have this energy all of a sudden, and it literally happens within a minute or two of drinking it. It's quite profound, and I could see how people would become so into it and maybe dependent on it in certain situations where maybe it's just to categorize it as, an illness of sorts. I'm not sure. Maybe some people do become addicted to it, if you will, right? Because it does get you high. There's this nutritionist, I forget her name right now, but I'll mention her in other videos. Doctor, I don't know if she's a doctor, I'm not sure. Natasha something or other. She lives in the UK. And she talked about how she believes that the reason why young people or people in general are prone to become addicted to drugs and such is because they're lacking something in their diet. And she's a proponent of animal products, right? She believes that because we no longer eat a natural, a healthy diet, our bodies are suffering and our brains are looking for a high that evolutionarily they are used to getting from the food that we eat. And when I drink blood from a healthy animal, okay, don't go drinking blood of some of these factory farm animals. You just might get very sick. But again, when I drink the blood of a very, very healthy animal, the effects are immediate and it is a high. And it's very pleasurable, and guess I'll just keep doing it. Anyway, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not recommending anything to anybody. I just figured I'd share some observations, some things that I've been thinking about, and some little experiments, if you will, that I've been running on myself. And maybe on some level, some of you will find this of value, and maybe this will help some of you make sense of this world that we live in and this seeming obsession that we have with blood. Why is lipstick red? Why do so many of us like red cars? Rosy cheeks. Well, maybe that has to do with fruit, ripe fruit. But what about ketchup on your meat? Anyway, just some thoughts. Have a good day.